So thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Teen Talks. We are in season 2 episode and we are powered by Inertia Teens, and I'm your host Samina Parveen, and today's episode is with co-founder of the Blahck Sheep, Pooja Bhatia, and I'm so excited to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Samina.
So could you please tell our audience a little more about yourself and the amazing work you do at the Blahck Sheep?
So the Blahck Sheep is a new wave independent digital publishing platform. We try and promote multilingual, multimedia submissions. We sort of don't have any rules. We want writers and artists to take the creative liberty and express themselves in however they'd like to, whether on a napkin scrolling, whether on a PowerPoint presentation, whether on a Word document, through a song, through a podcast, anything. So we are open to submissions from across the world, from writers, artists, researchers, anybody who's doing something out of the box, who has something to say and something to offer to the world. You're most welcome to send in your submissions, and then we put it across. So we basically started last year, and it's very interesting that we started the Blahck Sheep formally, like officially launched it on India's Independence Day. And the idea was also to break away from the traditional publishing industry and sort of get independence from the way public publishing has been done, not just in India, but across the world. It's a very gated way to do write-ups, to give a voice or to access pieces only of people who are good in a particular language, mostly English, right? The publishing industry has sort of propelled writers who are fluent in English, well versed with that. So we wanted to sort of shake up things a little, have a platform where there are no themes for submissions, there are no dedicated callouts. We accept rolling submissions. We want people to be experimental with whatever they do, and we are also big on personal narratives. So the Blahck Sheep sort of encourages people to talk about their personal journeys, their professional relationships, the things that they're exploring, and sort of be a part of their journey in that way, right? So if you are a woman, if you are somebody from the POC or DBA community and from the marginalized communities, and you would want to say something to the world, then please send in your submissions. We encourage submissions from women, POC, and DBA contributors.
That sounds awesome. And I love the history behind, launching it on Independence Day. That was very thoughtful and in a way metaphoric to the concept and theme you're going for. So here, the next question is a very wide question. Like there are many aspects to it, but I think teenagers usually fail to understand what feminism means. So could you please elaborate on what does feminism mean to you?
Again, this is a very difficult question to navigate, not just for teenagers, but for everybody. Even as adults, I think we're constantly questioning ourselves. And it's okay to have dilemmas. And I think for me personally, that is exactly what feminism means. It's to be aware of things around you, to be aware of the institutionalized things that are happening, of systemic changes occurring all around you, and also to be able to constantly question things, but not just question things or structures, but also yourself, right? So simply, I would say feminism or feminisms, there is no feminism. There is a lot of diversity within feminism as well. It is like any other ideological stream of thought, which has different takes. You can choose which kind of feminism you would like to subscribe to. I subscribe to the intersectional feminism. So for me, it's simply about living an examined life, to sort of be able to contemplate on whatever you're doing, but also enmesh it with social action, because just a life of contemplation is not enough. You also need to be doing things and acting on the things that you like and pursue them. It is also to be constantly checking your own privilege, right? Once we are aware of the institutionalized discrimination around us, the violence around us, how do we contribute to it? Because that is also, I feel, an important conversation to have. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you don't exert your privilege in certain circumstances, or you don't exert your weight, or you don't cause structural violence in other situations, right? So I think it's simply to lead a life which is examined, which is constantly grappling with dilemmas and trying to do the right thing wherever you can.
That's a brilliant answer. And I agree with you on acting out on the things you really believe in. And for me, it means being mindful of the past and the present and of other people and what they face. I think that is a very important part for me, to understand what others think about it. And I think there was an incident with me when my English teacher in particular, she had a very weird idea of feminism. And if you're propagating it in classes of girls and boys, I think that does have a really big influence on their life. So if you're saying something which isn't correct, that would really, play an important role in mental well-being of teenagers. And as I understood it much more deeply than the shallow remarks she made, it was very disturbing for me. So do you think that feminism and this concept is, playing an important role in mental well-being of teenagers, and how anything which is not right for me or them can disturb it, like trigger it, I can say?
Mm. Definitely. Because now that we live in this age of social media, you have Instagram, you have Twitter, everybody is broadcasting their lives out all the time, right? So I can't even imagine growing up as a teenager during this time. I think I grew up at a time when it was like the crux of liberalization, globalization, privatization, right? I'm a 90s born kid. And at that time, the economy was just opening up and we weren't really aware of all these influences then. But now your life is like being constantly televised. There are reality TV shows. There's so much drama happening all around you, right? So I think with that, there are body image issues or self-image issues, and people are constantly grappling with who we are, what we want. And there's also this thing of asserting yourself, but not asserting yourself too much. And where do we go? So I think a lot of times we feel not in charge of ourselves and our lives, which is why I think something like feminism, I mean, it's not like a magic pill that you consume and then everything is fine in your life. But I think it just helps you put things in context and to keep your mind sane. And know that there are a lot of things happening which are not in our controls, but how can we really act upon it? How can we work together with everybody else, right? Because collaborations and solidarity is also important. And I think a very important aspect of feminism is also solidarity and sisterhood, and also reaching out to other people and doing things together in that sense. Um, so yeah, I think majorly a lot of mental health issues are sort of happening, and I'm not an expert and I feel very awkward about navigating on these issues also. But I think a lot of times it is happening because we are not telling ourselves the story that we deserve. We're not writing our own stories. There are all the time external influences playing in our life. And there's this very interesting book that I read recently, which is called Wanting, where there's the author of the book, he basically picks up the theory from this French philosopher René Girard, who basically makes a distinction between the kinds of desires we have and the kinds of wants we have, and where is desire even stemming from? What do we really want? And the basic distinction he makes is between intrinsic desires and mimetic desires. So intrinsic desires are basically that drive you, that come from within. That is exactly who you are as a person. So suppose if I want to have chocolate cake, this is exactly what I want, and I will go and buy a slice, right? But what if I think that social media or the way people around me have been functioning, and I see my friends now taking a very radical diet, and chocolate cake is somehow frowned upon in my friend circle. So I might hesitate in saying that in front of everybody that, okay, I do want chocolate. I might say, oh, I want a carrot cake, which might be slightly healthier, maybe like a sugar-free carrot cake, right? But that's not who I am. Right? I don't want that for myself, right? So I think a lot of times we're grappling with that. And any theory or any sort of knowledge that you build or anything that you read, you consume, in a lot of ways, I think helps you challenge that system of knowledge and try to think for yourself in terms of what you want, right? And this is the power of intrinsic desires. Where do you want? What is the roadmap for your life? Where do you want to go? So I think that then becomes important. I don't know if I answered your question or not, Samina, but I'm hoping
Yes,
in
I
some
think you
way.
did. And I really agree with you that the media we consume is a very big part of our lives. And somehow it has become unavoidable in our generation to consume media and learn so many things. And influence really plays a big role. and somewhat helps to make sense of it all. And I think that there are bad influences as well, and there are good influences and organizations who have been working to embrace this feminism. Like, I have been associated with Girls Who Code and other organizations which are doing such a great job at, making the good influence out of all. And that is a great thing. And last thing, there is no harm in chocolate cake. And I think people in India have a really hard time molding to fit into, a box or a set of expectations that people have with you, and that impacts teenagers in a lot of ways. Do you think that, does that play an important role, and what was your experience with it?
Yeah, I think, as I said, like there is always this constant badgering of messages from society, from your own parents, expectations, right? The roles that you're supposed to fulfill, um, which is what I think Simone de Beauvoir also says in The Second Sex, right? That you're not born into being a woman, you're made a woman, you become one with the kind of things that you're responding to constantly. So I think that happens with everyone. That is sort of part of our journeys. But I think there's also important to realize that everybody is grappling with some sort of their own problems and their issues, and they've all had diverse journeys. So I think there is no one answer that I have for this. Or I don't want to really talk about how my personal life was shaped around that, because I'm pretty sure everybody's grappling through something. There's this song, however, that I really like, which is called "Follow Your Arrow." Have you heard of it, Samina? Have you listened to the song? Okay, so it's by Casey. I'm forgetting her full name, but that doesn't matter. So as long as we know it's by Casey, it's called "Follow Your Arrow." And I just like to read out the lyrics of the song, because it's one song that I think is so true when it comes about what you're supposed to do, not just not to, and how social influences are constantly like acting upon you. So it starts with saying, "If you save yourself a marriage, you're a bore. You don't save yourself a marriage, you're a horrible person. If you won't have a drink, then you're a prude. But they'll call you a drunk as soon as you down the first one. If you can't lose the weight, then you're just fat. But if you lose too much, then you're on crack. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. So you might as well just do whatever you want. Make lots of noise, kiss lots of boys, or kiss lots of girls if that's something you're into. When the straight and narrow gets a little too straight, roll up a joint or don't. Just follow your arrow wherever it goes. Follow your arrow wherever it goes. So I think that's how I'm going to answer your question. There is no right or wrong thing to do as long as you know what you want and you want to pursue it. It's everybody has an individual, distinct journey. I can't lecture anybody on what they should be doing or not be doing. You want to roll a joint, you don't want to roll a joint. You want to kiss a girl, you want to kiss a boy. Just go ahead and do it, right? Like act on your impulses. Sometimes take risks, make mistakes, and get back in bounds and constantly think of what you're doing. And that's the only way to go forward, I feel.
That's such a great answer. And I think this is the first time on Teen Talks that someone has sang a song, and
Oh,
that too
wow.
so beautifully. And
No, I
I
don't think
think
I
it would,
sang beautifully.
and
You're
I
being
think,
kind to me.
no, it was really good. And if I start singing right now, people would just exit out of my show.
I think we should sing a song together at some point. We will choose your favorite song and we will do like a karaoke together.
Sure. So that was a great summary to everything that we face with expectations and what others expect you to do, but the instinct that you want to do something and then just go for it. I think that can be the conclusion out of it. So how do you think that you know your platform is doing a job which is very unique, and I feel it's doing a great job? So I have worked in publishing sector for a while, and I know it lacks really diversity. And I have no idea about what is the condition in India. I know it's not great. So what is your stance on it, and how do you think your platform is playing a unique role in bringing out the voices of the underrepresented people?
Yeah, so the biggest problem I think with the publishing industry in India right now is gatekeeping. There are very filtered voices, very nuanced voices, and I feel like most of them will accept pieces that are very well written in English, or they have a theme. So for instance, I'll tell you how it works. So if you go to a website or a platform and you see whatever they call the submission themes are, right? Some of them are accepting science fiction, some of them are doing mental health, but they're very boxed. What if I want to write about my pet and my mental health journey? Right, I lost a pet and I'm grieving. What if I want to write about that? And it doesn't, if it doesn't fit into any particular theme that they're looking for, or there'll be very politically charged themes which you're supposed to write on. But what about the self? What about my journey with, say, experimental drugs? Or what if my journey with my sexuality, right? Where do I write about that? Who's going to address that? Forget about sex and drugs, if that's sort of a taboo and a cliche. What about religion, right? If I have to write about me being an atheist and sort of discovering my journey, where is the space to really do that? What if I want to write about gardening and mathematics? I just happen to be in that mood and the zone to write about that. So I feel like everything is very gated, very boxed. There is a particular time that you talk about something. You can talk about activist movements when some movement is going on, or where something is very topical, then you write about that. But to sort of have that space, to sort of even have the democratic safe space where I can express myself in Punjabi, I can write about the partition in Kannada, and to have a digital community, not just like a space where you write and you forget, but like a long lasting community where you read other people's views, you get back to them, you discover a great voice through a platform, right? What about romantics, dreamers, and doers? Where do they go? Where do they get boxed in? Why should we get boxed in, right? So I think that was the idea. We wanted to create a platform which is like a space for everyone, where everyone is welcome. We feel that everybody has something to say, everybody has something to offer. And the idea of the Blahck Sheep is that, yes, we do have editorial guidelines. It's not like we're functioning without any process or any structure, but it is the choice to decide what to read and how much of it to read rests with the reader. The editor doesn't make that choice. We don't decide which pieces should go out, which pieces are my top recommended pieces, which pieces are the best pieces. You pick that. Everything coexists on the platform. There is a grazing corner for first-time writers. We celebrate rejected pieces. There is a Blahck Sheep rejects. There is a Blahck Sheep recommends. The Blahck Sheep recommends is basically a section where we put out things. We basically back initiatives that we like. For instance, we did a write-up on Rocky Books, which was doing like a great job of translating materials for children who are abused at home, or children who had like a turbulent childhood, and how to sort of give them resources or tools to help their situation, right? So they basically translate a lot of these self-help materials in different languages and they circulate it. They also do materials on domestic violence. So we sort of backed them. We thought that initiative needs to reach more people so that more people can contribute to them. We also featured an artist who was doing her own thing. Like, she's never went to an art school, she was not formally trained, but very talented. There was this another woman from London. She's also a teenager, by the way, and she chronicled the entire pandemic as diary entries. Right, she just made a lot of scribblings in her diary, and this is how she dealt with mental health and coped with it during the pandemic. And what gives me the right to tell her that, yeah, your narrative is beautiful, but it has no space on my platform, right? Why should I do that? And this has been very interesting. The moment we say creative freedom, send in whatever you'd like in your own authentic voice, in whatever language and format you want. It's sort of been like a crazy thing where a lot of women, a lot of LGBTQ people have written. Somebody from Bombay sent a piece around an LGBTQ couple during the Bombay plague, which is their fictional piece. Somebody wrote a love poem to her lover. And that's the thing, right? So we don't want to tell you how to think, what to send in 12 times New Roman format. That's not even the kind of person that I am individually, right? Why should my platform reflect that? So basically the platform reflects what my co-founder and my sister Mansi and I basically believed in, and how we'd want the world to be, right? We don't have categories on our platform. If you notice, we don't do like health, gender, sports, things like that, news. We're not a newsy platform, we're a viewsy platform. That's how we segregate ourselves. That's what we think our USP is. We don't want to know what's happening in the news in terms of the isms, right? What capitalism did, or what's the next new academic work, the brilliant work that's come out. We want to know how you sort of grapple through it. How did capitalism impact you as an individual? Or if you're a community of people, how did it change the way you were doing things earlier? I'm more invested in knowing your journey. How did you fight patriarchy in your personal life, right? Do you believe in Mangal Sutras or not? What was the relationship between your parents and you? Talk to me about that. So we wanted to create a space also for young people again. We don't discriminate we don't have any particular age group, but we really think there was the need to create a space for young people where they could write. So to answer your question simply, Samina, I think we realized that to solve the problem of access in the publishing industry, to make it more accessible, you need to take down the rules. You need to tear down the one format fits everybody, because it doesn't. And that's the only way. The moment you think of equality over quality, because quality in itself is a very Brahmanical idea, right? The quality of my work will be determined by not just what I put to it, but also my structural inequalities, right? Did I have access to good education when I was growing up? Did my parents have the money to send me to the best institution? Did I have the resources to buy the best tools for my upgradation, right? So in that sense, we felt that the moment equality takes precedence over quality, and you say that you can pick and choose, you as a reader can decide what to do, and this is your platform to sort of come and experiment, then I think automatically the gatekeeping sort of breaks away. And then you see unheard voices coming up, stepping up. We had somebody, I remember, an 18-year-old boy from a town in Punjab, an obscure town in Punjab. He came out on the Blahck Sheep. He literally came out gay on the Blahck Sheep. And I thought it meant something, right? For somebody to see this platform and how we are curating it and to respond to us with that. Somebody took down her abusive mother on the platform. It was a letter to my abusive mother. And again, that person was also a teenager writing about it. Very complex emotions, very difficult to grapple and process. But I really feel things like that help, because when you see it, you're like, oh, this could be my story. And I do relate to this. And this is not the end of the world. There is somebody who's writing that, and I completely feel that. I remember during the pandemic itself, somebody had written about grappling with grief after losing their dad to COVID. And another woman, read her piece, and it weirdly comforted her, right? She had also lost a family member during the same time and didn't know who to talk about it, how to talk about it. And she reads this woman's piece, and I remember her writing to us on the Blahck Sheep email, saying that, can you please give me this woman's email ID? Can I reach out to her? Because I feel like she gets it. She understands what I'm saying. So, that is what we want to do. We want to create a community of shared love, where people can not just share the good things, but also grief with each other, right? And to have that safe space. I think that is the only way to create a safe internet. There is literally no other way for your voice to be represented. And which is why I think Anne Phillips' theory has really, when we were even discussing feminism, I think I should have brought this up, but Anne Phillips is one theorist or philosopher that I really look up to. And she talks about the politics of presence, right? So she says, for you to be heard, you need to be seen first. So she is somebody who's like a big proponent of representation systems around the world. She believes in the quota system. She thinks reservations are the way to go forward, because there is so much privilege and there is so much status quo, which can only be broken if more voices come forward. And the way to do that is to give them a little push. But once they're there, give them some time, give them a decade, men have been around for like centuries now, right? Or not just men. I mean, think of caste, think of race. The dominant sections have been around for years. So why not let the marginalized groups also be around for that much of time? and then only then you can have an equal space created, right? But somebody has to advocate for that push. Somebody has to advocate for them being there and doing things their way, because that's the only way to discover that there are alternative ways of doing things as well. I think I have overshot my time, so yeah, I'm
No,
gonna
no,
shut up right now.
no, it was great. And I loved listening to you. And I really agree with the thing you said about, articles being time sensitive and Times New Roman font. It is very limiting. And I think one thing which I could really relate to your platform is that we at Inertia Teens have a small magazine where we invite young voices to come and share their stories. And we also provide feedback on their work, which is something that a lot of teenagers are looking for. And they feel like, if they publish to a very big platform, they just reject it. They just do not give any feedback. So we took the initiative to give them feedback, and not on the writing, but how do you bring that voice out clearly in more impactful words. I think that would be something that we are focusing on, because teenagers have an idea, they have a theme, they have everything, but sometimes just a little editing helps the voice reach out to many other people. And one thing which you told, that there is no language limitation on your platform, is one thing that I really struggle with, because I think sometimes in Hindi and putting that out in English really, polishes it or somehow transforms my word into something else. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, because it was my original thought was in Hindi, and thinking it in some other language is very weird. Like it is very weird, and I don't think other people have to face it who are just, you know think in one language and write in the same language. And we have that power, you can say, which is often overlooked. I think knowing many languages is a very useful tool for you to communicate. And that was a really great answer. And I loved all the stories you have shared about the work that is featured on your platform. And I'm very grateful that I look up to these platforms, as while growing up, I have got a chance to look up to these places and the work you put out and learn from it. And I think there is a very major part of mental health which we don't look at, is which we cover up in Teen Talks, is the intersection between things. Like in the previous collaborations we have worked with, there was the intersection of poetry and mental health, which not a lot of people would think. In our magazine, there was a page about nails and mental health. Like very, that was very interesting to me, because I have a very bad relation with my nails and I really struggle with it. So mental health and nails is just perfect for me. And those kind of intersections need to be captured for the next generation, because I think if I would find places which put that out, it would be so great for me. Because these things are not really talked about. People talk about mental health, but what they do is take it to the extreme. So any teenager who is facing that might be like, I don't have that many issues, but there are small issues and there are small things which we face, which is not covered in any media. And yes, so moving on to the next question is that, um, do you think that it would be a very different world when we finally consume the literature from unheard voices? I think you have covered up this in your previous answer. And I know that in my school books, there is literally no diversity in poetry or any writings. So I really found it hard to, see myself as a writer, because I have not read anyone in my textbooks who belong to the same cultural background that I come from. So I really think you can cover up this answer. And one more last question I want to fit into this is, what is fifth space and how do you think that would be useful for our teenagers?
Yes. Um, so yes, I think at the Blahck Sheep also we've started this new project, which is the translators team. and we have a Discord channel for just translators. So we have a form that you fill in if you can translate in any of the regional languages or global languages. And at present, I think we have 10 languages represented. So whatever pieces come to us at the Blahck Sheep in English, we ask the translators to have their go pick up the pieces and whatever they'd like to translate in different regional languages. Because again, as you said, Samina, your school books are not representative of who you are, right? And that can be very difficult to sort of navigate the world when you don't see anybody you relate to or any role model that you can aspire to be, right? That happened to me when I was growing up, because I didn't believe in religion, I didn't believe in God, right? And it's very difficult to sort of find the role models who are also not doing that. And where do you even draw your inspiration from them? Who do you look up to? How do you discover the world? It can be a lonely place then, right? So I think it's important, and which is why we came up with the idea of the translators team to have not just English on our platform, but also have multiple languages exist. We have pieces in Punjabi, Kannada, Marathi, interviews also being translated, personal narratives are translated. Yeah, I think that might help somebody to, and it's been very interesting because we've been having these chats in the team as well on what people think about translations. And a lot of interesting takes have come up. One was that somebody said that they would rather rely on their own mother for a Gujarati translation than Google Translate or look for resources online, because the kind of depository of knowledge on that language that she has, it's quite rich, and internet translation will not even come close. So they sort of work with their mother to translate the pieces in their own language. And to answer your second question, which I have already forgotten, if you could give me a slight reminder. I'm so sorry, I've forgotten the second question.
It was about fifth space and how do you think that would help our society?
Yes. So the fifth space again is a space of self-transformation for young people. And so right now, society has sort of legitimized 4 spaces where young people operate in, right? So you have your family, you have your friend circle, you have your career or educational path that you follow, or you have leisure and recreation. So these are the sort of 4 spots that you can be in, right? But however, what we forget about is that there is also this fifth space, which sort of exists on the margins, if you may call it, which exists right in the middle of the intersection of all these 4 spaces, which is the space where great things happen, where discoveries happen, where you go within yourself and you transform as a person. You realize, what kind of a leader do I want to be? Do I want to be an empathetic feminist leader, or do I want to be the leadership? Do I want to offer a leadership model that I've grown up seeing, which is more assertive and the boss bitch model, right? All the time yelling at other people, getting things done, hustle culture and all of that. So who do you really want to be? So this fifth space is where you basically develop your own personality, your own voice. I'm very glad you said that Inertia teams also, offers feedback on the kind of writings that people do, in the sense that not just giving grammatical um, feedback on how the piece can be better, how they can write it better, but also how they can develop their own unique voice, right? Which I think is very important. So I feel like if you are a young person out there, develop a craft, develop a skill, develop your own voice, see what you like, don't like. And all of this again comes with the experiences that you make in life. Nobody can really tell you what to do. And also aspire for healthy role models, right? I know it's very difficult because there is a lot happening out there on the internet. But look for things that you resonate with, look for things that, resonate with the kind of person you are. And I think that's what the fifth space in a lot of ways does. It is a transformational space for young people.
That is such a great answer. And I feel like this episode might be a reminder for many people to start, whatever they feel interested in and just improve their skills, and just a reminder, or you can say like a thing that they did not know about. So lastly, what would you this is the Teen Talks question of the day, which is our favorite question to ask everyone. It is, if you could say anything to your younger self about any myth related to mental health, what would you say and why?
This question I was really thinking about, Samina. It really sort of put me in a spot. I think I would just say take more risks. I just feel like a lot of the things that we do comes from a sort of social engineering or conditioning, what our parents told us, what our family told us, what our friends think we should be doing, right? I really think the best way to go about it is take more risks. Don't beat yourself up for things that are happening to you. Things, get better with time, and just explore, experiment, go out, talk to more people, question things, develop a skill. As I said, invest your time in good things, read more, watch cinema if that's something you're into, go to film festivals, meet more people, get more influences from everywhere. And I think I'm usually very bad with giving advice because I don't think anybody should take advice from me. So that is one thing I would also say: don't see things for yourself, right? Don't do something just because somebody is telling you. It could be me, it could be anybody around you, right? Make your own path, follow your arrow. The song that we sang together. So yeah.
Lastly, what would you like to tell our audience about Inertia Teens?
Well, I think Inertia Teens is a wonderful, wonderful platform. I'm so glad Samina is doing it. And Samina is also doing it with her sister, right? It's also two sisters who are doing this platform. So I think at the Blahck Sheep, we have only love to give Inertia Teens. And I would love to see you grow. And we would love to collaborate or help you in whatever ways you want. If there are other forums that you'd want us to be a part of, we would love to do that, because I think you've curated it really well, Samina. It's very nicely done. And there was a need for a space where you can talk about mental health specifically of teenagers, because their problems are again different. And I'm not a teenager. I'm very glad I'm not a teenager at this point. That phase I have overgrown, but I understand it can be very difficult to sort of navigate that path and know who you are. So I'm very glad that you're around when you're doing this. And yeah, let us know in whatever other ways we can sort of support you.
So thank you so much for being a part of our episode. We really learned a lot from you, and I hope we can implement these in our lives.
Thank you. And next time we're definitely doing the karaoke. You don't have time now, but next time whenever you meet me, Samina, we're doing a karaoke together.
Sure.
There is no right or wrong thing to do as long as you know what you want and you want to pursue it. It's everybody has an individual distinct journey. I can't lecture anybody on what they should be doing or not be doing. You want to roll a joint, you don't want to roll a joint, you want to kiss a girl, you want to kiss a boy, just go ahead and do it, right? Like, act on your impulses sometimes, take risks, make mistakes, and get back and bounce and constantly think of what you're doing. And that's the only way to go forward, I feel.